Oh, hello. Can we please talk about UFC Vegas 62 coming our way tonight? Well, it depends where you are in the world, what time this actually posts. But either way, headlined by... see, this is how uninspiring the card is, honestly. Is that it's Alexa Grasso versus Viviane Araujo. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sure they're both very good. I do recognise Grasso, but basically I'm only looking at one fight this week, so apologies to the Patreon fan base, but there's not going to be an exclusive fight this week. Honestly, I've run short of time this week. The card is not massively inspiring. The only fighters that I can say I confidently know anything about is obviously Rafael Assunção. I don't know much about his opponent, Victor Henry. I'm not a huge, like the main event, Alexa Grasso. I'm aware of her. Araujo, I'm not sure. Anyway, it's not. I'm going to be totally honest. It's not an awe-inspiring card. I think, like myself, the UFC are saving themselves for Makhachev against Charles Oliveira. That's taking place, next weekend rather. So what I'm going to do is I will promise to get myself on track next weekend, and for the big fight card being Makhachev versus Oliveira, I'll do 2 exclusive Patreon fight picks rather than just the one, just to make up for the fact there isn't going to be an exclusive one this week. So I'm only going to look at one fight on this card, and it's the only fight where I fairly confidently know who is fighting, basically. Normally I would research the rest of these fights, but apologies again, I've run short of time this week, so I haven't got time to properly do my research into the fighters that, with respect, I've not really heard of massively, and I'm not going to pretend like I do know who they are, because I just don't. But I do know who Misha Cirkunov and Alonzo Menifield are, so that one's not going to be a problem. I'm going to be breaking that fight down now. Right, so Cirkunov versus Menifield. The first thing we need to note is that Cirkunov, I think it's Cirkunov. I'm gonna go with Cirkunov. It's coming back to light heavyweight after a couple of losses at middleweight. He did go down to middleweight because the thing is, he was always a little bit undersized at light heavyweight, I believe, because if I remember rightly, yeah, he's the one that got flying kneed by Johnny Walker, and that was mostly because his head was at the right height for Walker, and he obviously got beat by Teixeira and Ozdemir, both knockouts. Thing is, Joey, those are the only 3. No, he's been knocked out 4 times. He got knocked out by Ryan Spann as well. Of course he did. Yeah, no, I remember that one. You know what? Cirkunov, his record is very patchy, but you know what? He's got some really good skills. He's had a little go at middleweight. He lost last time out to Wellington Turman, who in his own right is a ridiculous Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. He's a black belt, and he's a really high level black belt. I believe he's won some Jiu-Jitsu competitions. I don't know if he's been in the world I don't know. Either way, no shame in being submitted by Wellington Turman. But what I would say is that Cirkunov's record is patchy at best. So the problem I think he's got in this matchup with Alonzo Menifield, for me, he's not outstanding in any one area, but he's very good in every area. Does that make sense? Like, he's not so much like a submission wizard per se, but he does have good defenses against submission. I mean, he's got a couple of submissions on his record. I believe they were earlier on in his UFC career. A shoulder choke against Charant. That was I kind of remember that one. That was the one where Charant missed weight. And yeah, when he was in LFA, he got a rear naked choke. But it's not. He's not like a submission. That's not usually his go-to. Menifield is a bit of an all-rounder. He's a former linebacker. He used to play linebacker at college, and then he went to the CFL. But he didn't play like at the highest level in American football. But he is a very good athlete. When you look at how he's built like a fucking monster. He's like a light heavyweight Alistair Overeem. He's he's kind of ripped. Now, what I find weird is that these guys are only 1 year apart. When you look at them, it's like, Cirkunov, there's no way he's 35. Come on, man. That is clearly a fake birth certificate he's giving out, isn't he? A fake Latvian birth certificate. But yeah, for me, the main way that Cirkunov's going to win this fight is obviously by submission. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's got 8 submissions on his record. He's very good at submissions. He got a Peruvian necktie on Jimmy Crute. Don't forget that. Jimmy Crute's really good. That's a very impressive win as well. Got the arm triangle on Patrick Cummins as well. You've got to remember that Pat Cummins is a very good wrestler. So his submission game is very high level, actually. Really high level. So when you're looking at it, the submission might not be like a terrible bet, honestly. I don't know if the submissions are... Oh, I'm going to have a look and see if the submissions bets are actually live yet, because like it might... The problem is, full disclosure, I don't think that Cirkunov's going to win this one. I really don't. Yeah, the odds on the submission aren't up yet, so I'll do a further video later on just to try and just to see what odds come in on that. But if I'm going to bet on Cirkunov to win, it's by submission. I think that if he can get Menifield to the ground, it's probably going to be from the clinch. It's probably going to be a trip, or he's going to pull guard. Menifield's very difficult to take down, actually, because he's got that American football background. And he's got a pretty good sprawl on him. And I think if this stays standing, it's Alonzo Menifield's fight, honestly. His boxing is pretty good, and he's got good power as well. His elbows are nice. He does land some good elbows when he gets in close. And I feel like if he gets the top position as well, he's probably going to make life very difficult for Cirkunov. He's going to be difficult to submit, and he's going to land a lot of ground and pound as well, because he does like to do that. Yeah, it depends for me which Alonzo Menifield turns up, because when Alonzo Menifield is really is on form, he looks like a real problem. But then you have him like when he fought William Knight, for example. With respect, Alonzo Menifield should be beating William Knight. You know, he should be beating him 9 times out of 10. But he just didn't that night. He just didn't look sharp. He looked slow, and he just didn't look like he was interested in winning. If that Menifield turns up, then Cirkunov has got a really good chance of getting the takedown and finding the submission and making him tap. But I'm rolling the dice on Menifield showing up for this one. I will take the knockout / TKO, because I just think Cirkunov, he's definitely not immune to it. He's got 4 knockouts on his record. So Menifield's got really good power. He has got some really heavy hands. And I don't think Cirkunov's stand-up is good enough to stop Alonzo Menifield from kind of teeing off and finding his rhythm and finding that knockout. So that's where I'm going. Menifield by TKO. But with a side note is that if I was going to take Cirkunov to win, it would be the submission, because look, if Menifield doesn't watch your P's and Q's and he just, slacks, because we've seen him do it, he loses concentration. And if he does that against Cirkunov, Cirkunov will grab an arm or a neck or a leg. He's got his submission game's very high level. It wouldn't surprise me to see that. So really watch this go to a decision for Cirkunov now. But no, my money's Alonzo Menifield by knockout. We'll see how this one goes. I'll do a recap of it next week, and then obviously there'll be a lot more fights to break down for the Oliveira versus Makhachev card. Until then, keep those odds long and those bets terrible.